Sometimes the most dangerous contracts are the ones signed in desperation, because the fine print never mentions that some men don't believe in expiration dates, especially when that man is an alpha king who's never been told no. The ink on the eviction notice had barely dried when Saren Ashford realized she had exactly 72 hours to come up with 3 months' rent or lose the only home her dying younger brother had ever known. The small apartment in the Ironwood Pax territory wasn't much, just 2 rooms above a butcher shop that smelled perpetually of blood and herbs. But it was theirs. Or it had been, until the landlord decided that housing a wolfless woman and her sickly brother wasn't worth the trouble anymore. Saren pressed her forehead against the cold window glass, watching the pack members below go about their evening routines. Wolves laughing, shifting, running free under the autumn moon. Things she'd never been able to do. At 24 years old, she still hadn't manifested her wolf, a condition so rare that most packs simply killed children who failed their first shift at 18. She'd survived only because her parents had begged, pleaded, and paid bribes to keep her alive. Then they died in a territorial dispute 3 years ago, leaving her with 15-year-old Cassian, who'd inherited their mother's weak lungs and their father's stubborn refusal to die quietly. Saren? Cassian's voice came from the bedroom, thin and reedy. Did the healer come? She forced brightness into her voice. Tomorrow, Cass. She'll come tomorrow. A lie. The pack healer had stopped making house calls 2 months ago, when Saren could no longer afford the fees. Wolfless meant powerless, and powerless meant worthless. The Ironwood pack had made that abundantly clear. Her fingers traced the edge of the eviction notice. 72 hours. She'd already sold everything of value. Her mother's jewelry, her father's weapons, even her own hair, once to a witch who paid well for virgin wolf hair. Though Wolf was generous considering her complete lack of transformation ability. The knock on the door made her jump. Miss Ashford? A male voice, cultured and smooth. I represent interests that might solve your current difficulties. Saren opened the door a crack, chain still engaged. The man on the other side wore an expensive charcoal suit that had no business being in this part of the territory. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and held the golden gleam of a high-ranking wolf. I'm Dorian Vex, Chief Advisor to Alpha King Ragnar Ironvale of the Northern Crown Pack, he said, producing a card that shimmered with what looked like real gold leaf. His Majesty requires a wife. Temporarily. You require money. I believe we can reach an arrangement. Saren's heart hammered. Ragnar Ironvale. Even she, isolated as she was, knew that name. The youngest Alpha King in 3 centuries. They said he'd claimed his throne at 22 by killing the previous king in single combat. They said his wolf was black as midnight and twice the size of normal alphas. They said he'd never lost a fight, never shown mercy, and never taken a mate despite the council's constant pressure. Why me? She asked through the crack in the door. I'm nobody. Wolfless. Why would a king want? That's precisely why. Dorian interrupted. His Majesty needs a wife who won't complicate his reign. No political ambitions, no powerful family alliances, no wolf to challenge his authority. Just a simple contract. 1 year of marriage in name only, public appearances as required, and at the end, you walk away with enough money to care for your brother for life. Through the thin bedroom wall, Cassian coughed. A wet, rattling sound that made Saren's stomach clench. How much money? She whispered. Dorian smiled. Enough to buy the best healers in all the territories. Enough to ensure your brother never wants for anything again. He paused. All you have to do is sign a piece of paper and pretend to love a man for 12 months. And after 12 months? And after 12 months? After 12 months, the contract dissolves. You go back to your life, he goes back to his. Clean, simple, transactional. Saren looked back at the eviction notice, then at Cassian's closed bedroom door where her brother struggled to breathe. Sometimes desperation doesn't feel like falling. Sometimes it feels like the only choice you have left. When do I sign? The contract ceremony took place in a windowless room deep within the Northern Crown Pack's administrative building, far from the grand throne room where real royal weddings happened. That told Saren everything she needed to know about how her husband viewed this arrangement. Dorian spread the papers across a plain wooden table. Standard terms: 1-year marriage contract, renewable only by mutual agreement. You'll maintain residence in the West Tower of the palace, separate from His Majesty's quarters, monthly allowance of 5,000, with bonuses for required public appearances. Medical care for your brother fully covered, including relocation to the palace medical wing. Saren's hand trembled as she reached for the pen. 5,000 a month. Cassian could have real doctors, real medicine, real hope. You'll need to sign here, here, and here, Dorian indicated. An initial here acknowledging that this is a marriage of convenience, not a true mate bond. What if he finds his real mate during the year? Saren asks. Then, the contract terminates immediately with full payout. You'd actually benefit from that scenario. Dorian's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Though I should mention, His Majesty has been searching for his mate for 6 years without success. The likelihood of... The door slammed open. Ragnar Ironvale filled the doorframe, like a storm made flesh. He was taller than Saren expected, at least 6.5 feet of pure muscle wrapped in black leather and barely contained violence. His hair was dark brown, almost black, worn slightly long and tied back, but it was his eyes that stopped her breath silver, like moonlight on water, and currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her prey instincts scream. She didn't have a wolf, but apparently her body still remembered how to fear an apex predator. You didn't mention she was terrified, Ragnar said to Dorian, his voice a deep rumble. She smells like panic. Your Majesty, I was just explaining the terms. Get out, Dorian. Gathered the papers quickly. The ceremony is in 1 hour. The council will be expecting. Out. The advisor fled. The door clicked shut. Saren found herself alone with the Alpha King, her back pressed against the table, her heart racing so fast she thought it might burst. Ragnar moved closer, each step deliberate. He didn't smell like she expected, not of blood and battle, but of pine forests and winter rain. Clean, wild, dangerous. Look at me, he commanded. She forced her eyes up from the floor. His face was harder than the portrait suggested, all sharp angles and barely healed scars. A warrior king. But there was something else there too, something that looked almost like loneliness. You're wolfless, he stated, not a question. Yes. And you agreed to this for money, press a sigh. For my brother. He's sick. Ragnar studied her for a long moment. They told you 1 year? Yes. The contract says, burn the contract. Saren blinked. What? He leaned down, bracing his hands on either side of her on the table, caging her in. Up close, she could see gold flecks in those silver eyes. Here's what's actually going to happen, little mouse. You're going to stand beside me in front of the council in 1 hour. You're going to take your vows. You're going to wear my ring and bear my name. And when people ask how long our marriage will last, you're going to smile and say forever. But the contract, there is no contract, he interrupted, his voice soft and absolutely terrifying. There's only this. You're mine now. I don't do temporary, I don't do fake, and I sure as hell don't do divorce. You can't just change the terms. I'm the Alpha King. I can do whatever I want. He straightened, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, not the gaudy display piece she'd expected, but a simple band carved from dark wood inlaid with silver. This was my grandmother's. She was wolfless too. Died, giving birth to my father, because the pack healers wouldn't treat someone they considered defective. 5. He took Saren's hand, his touch surprisingly gentle despite his threatening words, and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. I watched my father mourn her every day of his life. Power, Ragnar continued. He never remarried, never took another lover. Because when an Iron Veil claims a mate, we mean it. Forever. I'm not your mate, Saren whispered. This was supposed to be fake. Nothing about you is fake to me. His thumb brushed across her knuckles, over the ring. I knew the moment you walked into this building. Your scent, your heartbeat, everything in me that recognizes its other half woke up screaming, possible. That's not possible. I don't have a wolf. The mate bond requires... The mate bond requires two souls that recognize each other. Ragnar cut her off. Wolves just make it easier to feel. But I feel it, little mouse. And soon, you will too. This isn't what I agreed to. No, he agreed, stepping back and heading for the door. But it's what you're getting anyway. 1 hour. Wear the blue dress Dorian left in your preparation room. And Saren? He paused at the threshold. Your brother's already being moved to the Royal Medical Wing. The head healer is with him now. Consider it a wedding gift. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with a ring that felt like a shackle and a contract that apparently meant nothing at all. Outside, she heard wolves howling, but whether in celebration or warning, she couldn't tell. Saren stood frozen in the preparation room, staring at the blue dress hanging on the door like an accusation. Silk, the color of midnight sky. Simple in cut but clearly expensive. Not at all what she'd wear to a fake marriage. But then again, apparently nothing about this marriage was fake anymore. Child, you're going to worry yourself into an early grave. The voice made her spin. An elderly woman sat in the corner chair. How had Saren not noticed her before? Her silver hair braided in an intricate crown. Her eyes were the same striking silver as Ragnar's, but softened by age and something that looked like amusement. Who are you? Saren asked. Alara Ironveil, Ragnar's great-grandmother. The woman stood with surprising grace. Though according to pack records, I died 60 years ago. Funny how that works. But Ragnar said his grandmother died giving birth. His grandmother Margot did. Poor soul, rest her. Couldn't survive the pack's cruelty toward the wolfless. Alara moved closer, her fingers trailing along the blue dress. I'm his father's grandmother, his grandfather's mother. And I didn't die. I just got very, very good at hiding. Why? Power? Because some truths are too dangerous to speak aloud where the wrong ears might hear them. Alara's smile was knowing. Tell me, child, what do you know about the Silvermark bloodline? Nothing. I've never heard of it. Exactly as it should be. We made sure of that. Alara sat on the edge of the vanity, gesturing for Saren to join her. 300 years ago, there existed wolves who could bond without shifting. Humans thought them witches. Wolves thought them abominations. So they were hunted to near extinction. A few survived by hiding their nature, by appearing wolfless and broken to avoid detection. Saren's throat tightened. Are you saying I'm saying that the mark on your left shoulder blade, the one you've hidden your entire life, because it looks like a birthmark but burns during full moons, that's not a birthmark. It's a silver mark. You're not wolfless, child. You're something far older and far more dangerous than a simple, shifted wolf. Saren's hand flew to her shoulder, where indeed a silver crescent mark had resided since birth. Her mother had always told her to keep it covered, never explain it, never draw attention to it. My mother was Silvermark. As am I. As was Margot, though she never learned to control it before the pack killed her. Alara's expression darkened. Ragnar's grandfather married her, knowing what she was, hoping their child might inherit the gift. He got his wish. Ragnar's father carried the bloodline, and Ragnar inherited it as well. It's why he's so powerful, why his wolf is twice the size it should be. It's also why he can feel the mate bond with you even though you haven't shifted. But the contract was supposed to be temporary. Oh, darling, there was never going to be anything temporary about this. Alara laughed softly. Dorian's been searching for you for 3 years. Every wolfless woman in the territories, carefully investigated, bloodlines traced back generations. When they found Cassian's medical records listing his sister as primary guardian, and that sister was registered as wolfless with an unexplained mark on her shoulder blade, well, let's just say the eviction notice wasn't coincidence. The room tilted. They manufactured this. The eviction, the debt, all of it. Not manufactured. Accelerated. Ilara pulled a small vial from her pocket, filled with liquid that shimmered silver. Your brother is sick. That part is real. The pack's cruelty toward you is real. But Ragnar has been waiting for his Silvermark mate since he first shifted at 16 and felt the incomplete bond calling to him. When Dorian finally found you, he simply created the circumstances that would bring you here. That's manipulation. That's desperation, Ilara corrected. Silvermark males who don't find their mates before age 30 go feral. Ragnar turns 30 in 6 months. This wasn't about convenience, child. This was about survival. His and yours. Mine? Silvermarks who never awaken their power die young. Your mother made it to 38. You're 24. The cough you've started developing? The exhaustion? The way your bones ache during full moons? Ilara's expression gentled. You're running out of time. You need him as much as he needs you. Saren's hand went to her chest. She had been coughing lately, and tired. So tired. What's in the vial? Moon water. Blessed by the last surviving Silvermark priestess. Drink it before the ceremony, and your mark will activate. You'll feel the bond fully. Possibly. You'll begin to awaken. Ilara pressed the vial into her hands, but understand this. Once you drink it, there's no going back. The bond will complete. You'll be his, and he'll be yours, and neither of you will be able to sever it. Not through contracts, not through law, not through death itself. You're asking me to choose without really choosing. No. Ilara stood, smoothing down the blue dress. I'm telling you the truth your mother should have told you before she died. You were always meant for this. The Silvermark bloodline doesn't do coincidence. Every generation, the survivors find each other. You and Ragnar were destined long before Dorian forged an eviction notice. And if I refuse? If I walk out right now? Then Cassian loses his medical care. You lose your only home. And in 6 months, when Ragnar goes feral, he'll tear through half the territory before the council puts him down like a rabid dog. Ilara moved toward the door. But you won't refuse. Because I can see it in your eyes, you felt something when he touched you. Didn't you? Saren wanted to lie, but her hand had been tingling since he'd slid the ring on her finger. A warmth that spread up her arm and settled near her heart, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. What did his grandmother's ring have to do with this? Everything. It's made from the wood of a Silvermark tree, the only ones that grow where our people gather. Wood that recognizes its own. Ilara smiled. He didn't trap you, child. He claimed you. There's a difference. I don't see one. You will. The old woman paused at the threshold. Wear the dress. Drink the moon water. And when they ask if you take him as your husband, remember that the Silvermark bloodline has survived 300 years of persecution by protecting its own. Ragnar might seem dangerous, but out there? She gestured vaguely to the window, beyond which the sounds of the gathering ceremony crowd could be heard. Out there are packs who would kill you both if they knew what you were. Inside this marriage, you have the protection of the strongest Alpha King in generations. Choose wisely. Then she was gone, leaving Saren alone with the blue dress, the vial of moon water, and a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Her shoulder blade burned, the ring on her finger pulsed with warmth, and in the distance, she heard a wolf's howl that made something deep inside her chest respond with a resonance she'd never felt before. The clock struck the half hour. 30 minutes until the ceremony. 30 minutes until fake became forever. She looked at the vial in her hand, at the liquid that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Then she uncorked it and drank. The moon water tasted like starlight and regret, cold, sharp, and impossibly bright. The moment it hit her tongue, Saren's shoulder blade exploded with heat. She gasped, stumbling backward until her spine hit the wall, watching in horror as silver light seeped through her dress where the mark resided. The crescent moon birthmark she'd carried her whole life began to glow, its light visible even through fabric. But more than that, she could feel something awakening. Not a wolf, not the violent, shifting transformation she'd watched other pack members undergo. This was different, softer, like roots growing deep into soil, connecting her to something ancient that had been sleeping beneath her skin for 24 years. No, 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 she whispered, sliding down the wall to the floor. This wasn't supposed to be real. The contract, the marriage, all of it was supposed to be a transaction. 1 year of pretending in exchange for Cassian's life, Peter's. Nobody had said anything about destiny or bloodlines or bonds that couldn't be broken. A knock at the door. "Miss Ashford? It's time." Dorian's cultured voice filtered through the wood. "The council is assembled." Saren forced herself to stand, legs shaking. The blue dress still hung on the door, mocking her with its beauty. She'd planned to wear her own clothes, to make it clear this was business, not romance. But her practical gray blouse and worn pants seemed wrong now. Insufficient, like showing up to a battlefield in paper armor. She dressed quickly, fingers fumbling with the silk. The fabric moved like water, clinging in some places and flowing free in others. It was designed for someone more confident, more beautiful, not for a wolfless girl from the slums who couldn't even pay her rent. Except she wasn't wolfless, she was Silvermark. Whatever that meant, her reflection in the mirror showed a stranger. The dress transformed her, or maybe the moonwater had. Her skin seemed to glow with the same silver sheen as her mark. Her eyes, normally a muddy hazel, held flecks of silver that caught the light. Even her hair, plain brown and usually tangled, seemed to shine. "You look like her." Dorian stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Like Margot. Ragnar's grandfather kept one portrait of her, hidden in his study. "You could be her twin." "Is that why he really wants me? Because I remind him of a dead woman?" "He wants you because you're his mate. The resemblance is just the universe's idea of poetry." Dorian offered his arm. "Shall we?" The council grows impatient. They walked through corridors of polished stone, past tapestries depicting centuries of Ironvale rule. Saren caught glimpses of other wolves, guards, servants, nobles, all of them pausing to stare as she passed. Some looked curious, others hostile. A few seemed afraid. "They can sense it," Dorian murmured. "The silver mark. Even if they don't know what it is, their wolves recognize power when they see it." "I don't have power. I don't have anything." "You drank the moon water. You're awakening. Give it time." He paused outside massive double doors carved with wolf imagery. Behind them, she could hear voices, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. "One more thing. The council doesn't know about the Silvermark bloodline. As far as they're concerned, you're just a convenient wolfless bride, meant to keep the political situation stable. Keep it that way." Most werewolf stories, but it's Siley Halfanant will have it and Dominance bride. "And if they find out?" "They'll have you executed by sunrise." Dorian's smile didn't reach his eyes. Silver marks are considered abominations by traditional law. The only reason Ragnar survived is because his father hid his heritage. If the council discovered you're both Silvermark, neither of you would leave that room alive. Quote, "Then why do this? Why risk everything for a fake marriage?" "Because it's not fake to him." Dorian pushed open the doors. "And after tonight, it won't be fake to you either." The throne room stole her breath. Vaulted ceilings stretched up into shadow, supported by columns carved from single trees, torches, burned in silver sconces, their light reflecting off polished stone, and everywhere, wolves. Hundreds of them, dressed in formal attire, all turning to stare as she entered. At the far end of the room, standing before a raised dais, Ragnar waited. He'd changed into formal regalia, black leather, and silver armor that made him look like a war god. His hair was still tied back, exposing the sharp lines of his face and a scar that ran from his left temple to his jaw. But his eyes found hers across the distance, and she felt that tug again. Stronger now. Insistent. The bond. It was real. She could feel it pulling her toward him like a tide. Walk, Dorian whispered. Don't run. Don't hesitate. Show them you belong here. Saren forced one foot in front of the other. The aisle stretched impossibly long. She could hear whispers rising like smoke. Wolfless. Why would he choose her? She's nobody. Probably a political maneuver. Fair. She won't last a month. Each word was a small cut, but she kept walking. What choice did she have? Behind her was nothing: eviction, poverty, Cassian's death. Ahead was Ragnar, dangerous and demanding, and claiming she was his forever. But also ahead was power she didn't understand, a heritage she'd never known, and a bond that made her chest ache with wanting. She reached the dais. Ragnar extended his hand. This was it, the moment that would seal everything. Last chance to run, little mouse, he murmured, so quietly only she could hear. After this, you're mine. You said there was no choice, Paze. There's always a choice. His silver eyes searched hers. Even if it's not the one you wanted. Behind them, an elderly wolf in ceremonial robes cleared his throat. We are gathered to witness the union of Alpha King, Ragnar, Ironvale, and Saren Ashford of the Ironwood Pack. A most unusual match. Unusual. That was one word for it. Do you, Ragnar Ironvale, take this woman as your queen? I do. No hesitation. Absolute certainty. The elderly wolf turned to her. And do you, Saren Ashford, take this man as your husband and king? Her shoulder blade burned. The ring on her finger pulsed with heat. And somewhere deep inside her chest, something ancient whispered, yes. I do, she heard herself say. Then, by the authority granted by the Council of Alphas, I pronounce you. Wait. A voice from the crowd. A woman stepped forward, tall and elegant, with auburn hair and a dress that probably cost more than Saren's entire life. I challenge this union. The room erupted in whispers. Ragnar's hand tightened on Saren's, his whole body going rigid. On what grounds? The officiating wolf demanded. The woman smiled, cold and calculating. On the grounds that I am Rhiannon Blackthorn, daughter of the Southern Mountain Pack Alpha. I have a signed betrothal contract with King Ragnar, dated and sealed 3 years ago. This marriage is invalid. Saren's heart stopped. She looked at Ragnar, waiting for him to deny it. But his expression had gone carefully blank. Ragnar? She whispered. It's complicated, he said through gritted teeth. Complicated. The understatement of the century. And suddenly, Saren realized that maybe she wasn't the only one with secrets that could destroy everything. The throne room descended into chaos. Council members shouted over each other, some demanding the ceremony continue, others insisting Rhiannon's claim be investigated. Through it all, Ragnar stood perfectly still, his hand locked around Saren's wrist like a shackle. This is a distraction, Ragnar announced, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. The betrothal contract Lady Blackthorn references was nullified 2 years ago when she chose to mate with the Eastern Ridge Alpha's son. You cannot claim one king while bonded to another. Rhiannon's smile never wavered. I never completed that bond. It was a political arrangement that dissolved. Unlike my betrothal to you, which was witnessed by 7 alpha witnesses and sealed in blood, blood seals can be broken. Not without mutual consent. Did you consent, Your Majesty? She tilted her head, all false innocence. Because I certainly didn't. The elderly officiating wolf cleared his throat nervously. If there is indeed a prior blood-sealed betrothal, we must verify its status before this ceremony can continue. Pack law is clear on this matter. Then verify it, Ragnar snarled. Bring the contract, test the seal, do whatever you need to do. but this ceremony will be completed tonight. I'm afraid that's not possible. Another council member interjected, a heavy-set man with graying hair and cunning eyes. Verification requires 3 days minimum, during which time, Lady Blackthorn has the right to remain at court as your potential betrothed. Convenient timing. Dorian muttered from somewhere behind Saren. Rhiannon arrived less than an hour ago. Someone told her about the ceremony. Ragnar's jaw clenched. Who? Does it matter? Rhiannon glided closer, her movements predatory despite their grace. Quote, what matters is that your little orphan bride needs to step aside until this is sorted. Unless. Her eyes fixed on Saren with something like pity. Unless you've already consummated your claim? But no, that's impossible. You only just met her today. How could a bond form so quickly? It was a trap. Saren could feel it. If Ragnar admitted the mate bond, questions would be asked. How could he bond with a wolfless woman? What made her special? Investigations would follow. And investigations would uncover the Silvermark heritage that could get them both killed. The bond doesn't matter, Saren heard herself say. Everyone turned to stare. You're right. We only just met. Pa says. This marriage was a business arrangement, not a love match. If there's a prior legal claim, then it should be resolved properly. Pa says. Ha says. Ragnar's hand tightened painfully on her wrist. Saren. It's fine. She pulled free, ignoring how wrong it felt to break contact. The bond screamed in protest, but she forced a smile. 3 days won't make a difference to a contract marriage, will it? I'll wait. How magnanimous, Rhiannon purred. And so understanding, almost like you never expected this to be real anyway. The barb hit home, but Saren kept her expression neutral. I'm nobody, just a wolfless girl who needed money for her brother's medical care. The king needed a wife who wouldn't complicate his political situation. It's simple. Simple, Ragnar repeated, his voice deadly soft. You think this is simple, isn't it? She met his silver eyes, trying to communicate everything she couldn't say aloud. We're being watched. We need to be smart. 3 days gives us time to figure this out. But Ragnar wasn't looking at her like a co-conspirator. He was looking at her like she'd just driven a knife into his chest. Fine, he bit out. 3 days. Lady Blackthorn, you'll be given rooms in the south wing. Dorian will arrange for the contract verification. He turned to the council. This ceremony is postponed, not cancelled. Make that clear in the records. And your bride? The elderly wolf asked carefully. She'll stay in the West Tower as originally planned. With guards posted, no one disturbs her without my permission. Ragnar's gaze swept the room. And if I find out who leaked information about this ceremony to Lady Blackthorn, I'll have their tongue removed. Am I clear? Am I clear? I clear. Siomaris, Siomaris, Siomaris. Am I clear? Silence. Good. This gathering is dismissed. The crowd began to disperse, wolves filing out in clusters of whispered conversation. Rhiannon lingered, her smile victorious. 3 days, Your Majesty. I look forward to continuing our reunion. She swept past, close enough that Saren caught her perfume roses and something darker. Poison, maybe, power, or just the scent of a woman who always got what she wanted. Then they were alone, just Saren and Ragnar in the vast throne room, torches guttering in their sconces, shadows dancing across stone. You let her win, Ragnar said flatly. Quote, I bought us time. Siomaras' power. You told them our marriage meant nothing. He moved closer, each step controlled fury. You called it simple. I said what needed to be said to protect us both. Saren held her ground even though every instinct screamed to retreat. If I'd claimed the bond, they would have asked questions. Dangerous questions. So instead, you made me look weak. Like any woman can walk into my court and override my decisions. Better to look weak than dead. She touched her shoulder blade, where the mark still burned. Alara told me what happens if they find out about the Silvermark bloodline. We need to be careful. Alara. Ragnar's laugh was bitter. My great-grandmother filled your head with fear, and now you're running scared. Kind of, I'm being smart. You're being a coward. The words stung. But before Saren could respond, pain lanced through her chest, sharp, sudden, stealing her breath. She gasped, stumbling. Ragnar caught her before she fell, his arms surprisingly gentle despite his anger. What's wrong? I don't know. It hurts. The bond. Another wave of pain, worse than before, like something was trying to tear her apart from the inside. It's the separation. Alara's voice came from the shadows. The old woman materialized from behind a pillar, her expression grave. The moon water activated your silver mark. The bond is trying to complete itself, but you just publicly rejected your mate. Your body doesn't understand why you're fighting what it wants. I didn't reject him. You called your marriage simple, meaningless. A business transaction. Alara moved closer, her silver eyes sad. Words have power, child, especially between mates. Right now, your silver mark is trying to complete the bond while your words are trying to sever it. You're tearing yourself in two. Another spike of pain. Saren doubled over, her vision blurring. She could feel Ragnar's heartbeat where he held her, strong and steady. The bond wanted her to sink into him, to let him complete what she'd started by drinking the moon water. Make it stop! She gasped. I can't, Alara said. Only you can. By accepting what you are, by accepting him. 3 days. Ragnar's voice rumbled above her head. You wanted 3 days, you'll get them. Problem. But we do it my way. He lifted her easily, cradling her against his chest. You'll stay in my quarters, not the West Tower. You'll let the bond stabilize. And when the 3 days are up and I've dealt with Rhiannon's nonsense, you'll marry me properly. No more talk of contracts or business arrangements. Understood? Saren wanted to argue. But another wave of pain stole her words, and all she could do was nod against his chest. Good, he said, carrying her toward the door. Because I meant what I said earlier, little mouse. You're mine, and I don't share. As they left the throne room, Saren caught a glimpse of Rhiannon watching from a balcony, her expression calculating. This wasn't over. The 3 days were just beginning. And something told Saren they would be the longest 3 days of her life. Ragnar's quarters occupied the entire top floor of the North Tower. A sprawling space of dark wood and stone that somehow managed to feel both fortress and sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the territory, revealing forests that stretched to the horizon under the waning moon. He laid Saren on a massive bed covered in furs, then stepped back as if she might burn him. The pain will ease once you stop fighting the bond, he said, his voice carefully neutral. Your body needs to recognize mine as safe. This is insane. Saren curled on her side, clutching her chest where the pain pulsed in waves. Yesterday, I was nobody. Today, I'm supposedly some ancient bloodline with a mate bond that's trying to kill me. Not trying to kill you, trying to complete itself. Ragnar moved to a cabinet, pouring something amber into 2 glasses. Drink this, it'll help. She accepted the glass with shaking hands. The liquid burned going down, but warmth spread through her chest, dulling the pain to a manageable ache. What is it? Whiskey, infused with moonflower. Old Silvermark remedy. He sat on the edge of the bed, maintaining careful distance. Alara made sure I always kept some on hand. She knew you were coming, even if I didn't. How long has she been preparing for this? 20 years, give or take. Ragnar stared into his glass. Since my father died and I became Alpha King at 22. She pulled me aside and said, your mate will be Silvermark, like you. But she won't know what she is. When she comes, protect her. Because the wolves who killed your grandmother will try to kill her too. Saren's breath caught. Margot wasn't killed by childbirth. No. She was murdered by council members who discovered what she was. They made it look like complications, but my grandfather knew. It destroyed him. Ragnar's jaw clenched. He spent the rest of his life hunting down everyone responsible. By the time he was done, half the old council was dead. The new council thinks he went mad with grief. They don't know it was vengeance. And you let them think that. Better they underestimate what a silver mark can do than fear us enough to strike first. He finally met her eyes. That's why I needed a wife they'd dismiss. Wolfless, powerless, no political connections. Someone the council would overlook. But Rhiannon's challenge changes everything. Rhiannon is a distraction. The betrothal contract she mentioned does exist, but it was never blood-sealed. She's lying, and I can prove it. He set down his glass. What concerns me more is who told her about our ceremony. Someone in this palace wants to stop our marriage. Someone who might suspect what you are. A knock at the door interrupted them. Dorian entered without waiting for permission, his face grim. We have a problem. Lady Blackthorn has demanded trial by combat. Combat? Saren sat up, ignoring the residual pain. For what? For the right to be Ragnar's queen. Power. She's invoked an old law that allows competing claimants to settle disputes through pack combat. Dorian's gaze flicked to Saren, Prothry. Normally this would be between alphas, but since Miss Ashford is wolfless, she'll be slaughtered. Ragnar finished, his voice deadly quiet. Rhiannon knows this. That's the point. Can't you refuse the challenge? Saren asked, not without looking weak. And if I look weak, the council will use it as grounds to question my fitness to rule. Ragnar stood, pacing to the window. This was planned. Rhiannon doesn't want to be my queen. She wants me dead, or deposed, so her father can seize northern territory. Then give her what she wants, Saren said quietly. Both men turned to stare. Not the territory, but the combat. Let me fight her. Absolutely not, Ragnar growled. You'd die in minutes. Maybe. Saren touched her shoulder blade where the silver mark burned. Or maybe it's time to find out what this bloodline can actually do. You don't know how to control it. Then teach me. We have 3 days. She stood, forcing strength into her voice, despite the pain still radiating through her chest. You said silver marks are dangerous, that they're hunted because they're powerful. Show me why. Make me dangerous. Alara stepped out of the shadows. Apparently materializing from nowhere was her specialty. The girl's right. The silver mark awakening is accelerated by necessity. She needs a reason to fight, and Rhiannon just gave her one. Quote, she'll be killed, Ragnar repeated. Then she'll die as she lived, powerless and afraid. Alara's words were harsh, but her eyes were kind. Or you can teach her what she is. Give her a chance to survive, to be more than what everyone thinks she is. Ragnar looked between them, something like anguish crossing his face. Finally, he nodded. 3 days. I'll teach you everything I know about the silver mark. But Saren, he caught her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. If at any point you want to quit, you say so. I won't watch another silver mark woman die because of pack politics. I won't quit. You say that now. Wait until the training starts. He released her, his expression hardening into something commanding. We start at dawn. 4 hours of combat basics, 2 hours of silver mark meditation, 4 more hours of practical application. We'll skip meals if we have to. Power. You'll sleep maybe 3 hours a night. By day 3, you'll hate me. I already kind of hate you, Saren said. You did trap me into marriage. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Fair. But after the next 3 days, you'll hate me properly. He moved toward the door. Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be hell. Where are you going? To deal with the council. They need to formally accept Rhiannon's challenge, which means I need to make sure the terms favor you as much as possible. He paused at the threshold. One more thing. The bond will keep hurting until you stop fighting it. You don't have to accept me as your mate if you don't want to, but at least accept that you're silver mark. That's not something you can reject without consequences. Then he was gone, leaving Saren alone with Alara. You should rest, the old woman said gently. Tomorrow will indeed be difficult. Elara, what if I can't do this? What if the silver mark doesn't awaken properly? Then you'll die, and Ragnar will likely go feral from losing his mate, and the council will seize control, and everything my family has protected for 3 centuries will be destroyed. Elara patted her hand. No pressure, though. Saren laughed, despite everything. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Comfort is for people with options. Elara moved toward the door. But I'll tell you what I told Ragnar when he was 22 and terrified of his power. The silver mark doesn't make you strong. It reveals the strength that was always there. You've survived 24 years in a pack that wanted you dead. You've kept your brother alive against impossible odds. You're already stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. Good. The moment you think you're strong enough is the moment you stop growing. Elara opened the door. Sleep, dream, and tomorrow, learn to be dangerous. Alone in Ragnar's quarters, surrounded by the scent of pine and winter rain, Saren lay back on the massive bed. Her shoulder blade still burned. Her chest still ached from the incomplete bond. And in 3 days, she'd face a trained alpha warrior in combat that would likely kill her. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't running away from danger. She was running toward it. And maybe, just maybe, that was what the silver mark had been waiting for all along. Dawn came too early and too bright. Saren woke to find Ragnar already in the quarters, dressed in training leathers and looking like he hadn't slept at all. Up, he commanded. We're wasting moonlight. It's daytime. Exactly. Moonlight is when you'll be strongest. Daylight is when you need to learn to fight anyway. He tossed her a bundle of clothes, soft leather pants, a fitted tunic, boots that looked like they'd actually fit. Change. Meet me in the courtyard. 5 minutes. He was gone before she could argue. The training courtyard was private, walled off from the rest of the palace grounds. Ancient silvermark trees grew along the perimeter, their bark silver, their leaves shimmering even in daylight. Saren had never seen anything like them. They only grow where silvermark blood has been spilled, Ragnar explained, watching her stare. This courtyard has existed for 400 years. Every generation of my family has trained here. Ifixi? Comforting, Saren muttered. It should be. It means you're not the first to face this. Now, attack me. She blinked. What? You heard me. Attack. Hit me. Kick me. Whatever you think might work. He stood relaxed, arms at his sides. You have 3 days to learn enough combat skill to survive 3 minutes against Rhiannon. We start by seeing what you already know. I don't know anything about fighting. Then you'll learn fast. Attack. Saren hesitated, then lunged forward with a clumsy punch. Ragnar sidestepped easily, caught her wrist, and flipped her onto her back before she could blink. The impact drove the air from her lungs. Too slow, too obvious, no follow-through. He offered a hand. Again. They repeated the pattern for an hour. Saren attacked, Ragnar countered. She ended up on the ground. Her body screamed in protest. Bruises bloomed across her arms and ribs. But slowly, painfully, she began to see the patterns in his movements. The way he shifted his weight before countering. The openings in his defense. Better, he said after she managed to land a glancing blow to his shoulder. You're learning to read the fight, not just react to it. I'm learning that I'm going to die in 3 days, probably. He circled her. Predatory. But you'll die on your feet, fighting, which is more than most wolfless women get. Now, defense. I'm going to attack you. Block, dodge, or redirect. Don't try to match my strength, you can't. Use momentum against me. What followed was 2 hours of brutal instruction. Ragnar didn't hold back, didn't coddle. He came at her with the same intensity he'd use against any opponent, and expected her to survive it. She failed more than she succeeded. But each failure taught her something new about her body's capabilities and limitations. Enough, he finally called, when she was barely able to stand. Silvermark training now. I need water, and possibly medical attention. Water, yes. Medical attention, no. Your silver mark will heal the minor injuries if you let it. He led her to a clear space in the courtyard center, where a circle of silver stones had been arranged. Sit. She collapsed more than Saturday. Ragnar settled across from her, close enough that their knees nearly touched. Plen, the silver mark isn't like a wolf. He began. You don't shift. You don't grow fur and fangs. What you do is far older. You connect. To the earth, to other silver marks, to the very essence of what makes wolves pack animals in the first place. I don't understand. You will. Close your eyes. Feel the mark on your shoulder blade. Don't fight it. Don't fear it. Just acknowledge it's there. His voice dropped lower, hypnotic. The silver mark is a bridge between human and wolf, pack, between individual and pack, between what you are and what you could be. Saren focused on the burning sensation that had plagued her since drinking the moon water. But instead of pulling away, she leaned into it. The burn shifted, became warmth, spread across her shoulders and down her spine. Good, Ragnar murmured. Now reach out, feel the trees around us. They're silver mark too, in their way. Connect to them. It sounded insane. But Saren tried anyway, extending her awareness beyond her body. And impossibly, incredibly, she felt something respond. The trees. She could sense them, not see or hear, but feel their presence. Their roots deep in earth, their leaves reaching for sky. I feel them, she whispered. Because you're pack, all silver marks are pack, even the trees. Now feel me. His presence hit her like a wave. Overwhelming, intense, impossibly bright. She gasped, eyes flying open. Too much, she panted. It always is, the first time. The mate bond amplifies the silver mark connection. You're not just feeling my presence. You're feeling everything I am. He studied her with those silver eyes. Try again, but this time, don't just receive. Push back. Let me feel you too. They worked for hours. Saren learning to sense and be sensed, to open the silver mark connection without drowning in it. It was exhausting in a completely different way than combat training. By the time Ragnar called a halt, her head pounded and her shoulder blade felt like it was on fire. 1 day down, he said. 2 to go. I'm going to die. Yes, but you'll die stronger than you lived. He helped her stand, his hand lingering on hers. The council met this morning. The combat challenge is formally accepted. 3 days from now, you fight Rhiannon in the ceremonial arena. First blood, submission, or death determines the winner. Death? She won't go for submission. Neither should you. His expression hardened. In 3 days, you become a killer or a corpse. There's no middle ground. A commotion at the courtyard entrance drew their attention. Dorian burst through, flanked by guards. Your Majesty, we have a situation. Someone poisoned Lady Blackthorn's evening meal. Ragnar's jaw clenched. Is she dead? No. She has a personal poison tester who consumed the food first. He's dead. Kantan. She's claiming you orchestrated it to avoid the combat challenge. Of course she is. Ragnar turned to Saren. Go to my quarters. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but Alara or me. What are you going to do? Damage control. If the council believes I tried to assassinate a visiting Alpha's daughter, they'll use it as grounds for deposition. He was already moving toward the entrance. And Saren? If someone comes for you, use what I taught you today. Don't hesitate, don't show mercy, just survive. Then he was gone, and she was alone in the courtyard with its silver trees and blood-stained earth, realizing that the next 3 days weren't just about learning to fight Rhiannon. They were about surviving a palace full of wolves who wanted her dead. Day 2 began before sunrise. Saren had barely slept 3 hours when Ragnar shook her awake, his expression grim. Someone tried to break into my quarters last night, he said without preamble. The guards caught them before they reached the door. He's being interrogated now. Saren sat up, instantly alert despite her exhaustion. Kantakodiaus. Who was it? Lower-ranked enforcer claims he was acting alone, trying to prove his worth to Lady Blackthorn. Ragnar's tone suggested he didn't believe a word of it. Get dressed. We're changing training locations. If someone's willing to attack you in the palace itself, we need somewhere more secure. 20 minutes later, they were deep in the forest beyond the palace walls. The trees here were ancient, their trunks wider than houses, their canopy so thick that little sunlight penetrated. And everywhere, Saren could feel them. The silver-marked trees, dozens of them, their presence humming against her awakening senses. Quote, "This is the old grove," Ragnar explained, leading her to a clearing at the forest's heart. No one comes here except Silvermark. The trees themselves guard it. Anyone with hostile intent who enters dies before they can leave. Dies how? The trees are patient. They wait until you're deep enough that you can't find your way out. Then they simply redirect you. Forever. There are bodies in this forest that have been walking in circles for decades. He gestured to the clearing, code. But for Silvermark, it's the safest place in all the territories. Today's training was different. Less physical combat, more control. Ragnar taught her to channel the Silvermark energy, to use it as both shield and weapon. Pradev. You won't beat Rhiannon with strength, he explained, demonstrating as silver light flickered across his skin. But you can beat her with surprise. She expects a wolfless girl who'll fold at the first strike. Show her something she's never seen before. Saren practiced pulling the Silvermark power to the surface, letting it flow through her limbs, her fingertips, her very breath. It was like learning to use a muscle she'd never known existed. Exhausting. Painful. But gradually, she began to feel the difference. The way the energy responded to her intent. The way it could harden her skin like armor or burst outward like a shockwave. Good, Ragnar said, when she managed to deflect one of his strikes with a burst of silver light. Again, faster this time. They drilled for hours. Strike, defend, channel, release. Her body moved beyond thought, beyond conscious decision. The Silvermark began to feel less like a foreign power, and more like an extension of herself. Enough, Ragnar finally called, as the sun reached its zenith. Rest. Then we work on the kill strike. The what? His expression was serious. Rhiannon will try to kill you. You need to be prepared to do the same to her. The Silvermark has an attack that disrupts the bond between wolf and human. It's agonizing. Fatal if held long enough. I need to teach you how to use it. I don't want to kill anyone. Then you'll die. He sat beside her, his shoulder nearly touching hers. I know you think there's another way. There isn't. Rhiannon challenged you because she thinks you're weak. Thinks you'll surrender rather than fight to the death. If you prove her wrong, she'll either submit or die. Those are the only options. Saren stared at her hands, at the faint silver glow that now seemed to pulse beneath her skin. What if I can't do it? What if I freeze? Then I'll lose you. His voice was quiet, and I'll spend the rest of my very short life hunting down everyone responsible before the feral madness takes me completely. She looked at him. Really looked at him. Seeing past the Alpha King to the man beneath. The man who'd been alone for 8 years, searching for a mate he couldn't find. The man who'd orchestrated an elaborate plan just to bring her here. The man who was now spending every waking hour trying to keep her alive. Why me? She asked. Really? There must have been other Silvermark women, easier ones to find. Why go through all this trouble? Because it's you. He met her eyes, and for once, there was no command in his voice. Just honesty. I felt you before Dorian ever found you. In my dreams, in my waking moments, a presence calling to me across the distance. It took 3 years to track that call to its source. And when Dorian finally showed me your picture, I knew. You weren't one possibility among many. You were the only one. That's not fate. That's obsession. With Silvermark, they're the same thing. He stood, offering his hand. Come on, kill strike practice. Try not to actually kill me. No promises. Day 2 bled into night. Night into exhausted sleep. Sleep into day 3. The final day. Tomorrow, she'd face Rhiannon in the ceremonial arena. Today was her last chance to prepare. Cassian visited that morning, escorted by healers who reported his improvement. The palace medicine was working. Color had returned to his cheeks. His breathing came easier. You look different, he said, studying her with the perceptiveness of younger siblings everywhere. Stronger. I'm trying, Saren said, pulling him into a hug. Are you really going to fight that alpha woman? He pulled back, worry creasing his young face. Everyone's talking about it. They say she's going to kill you. Too. They're probably right. Saren. But I'm gonna try anyway. She ruffled his hair. Because giving up means losing you, losing Ragnar. Losing everything I've found here, and I'm tired of losing. After Cassian left, Alara appeared with food and more moon water. Drink, she ordered. It'll give you strength for tomorrow. Will it be enough? I don't know. The old woman's honesty was almost comforting. You've learned more in 3 days than most Silvermark learn in years. But Rhiannon has been training since birth. She's fast, brutal, and she doesn't hesitate. You'll need more than power tomorrow. You'll need conviction. Conviction in what? In your right to exist, to survive, to claim the life that was stolen from you by wolves who feared what you could become. Elara cupped her face. Tomorrow, you show them what happens when they push a Silvermark too far. You show them the cost of their cruelty, and you survive. Not for Ragnar. Not for Cassian. For you. The final training session was simple. Ragnar and Saren in the old grove, the sun setting through the Silvermark trees, casting everything in shades of silver and shadow. One last thing, he said. Something my father taught me before he died. The Silvermark responds to emotion. Fear makes it weak. Anger makes it wild. But love? He stepped closer. Love makes it unstoppable. I don't love you, Saren said. I barely know you. I know. His hand came up, brushing her cheek. But you could, in time, if you survive tomorrow. If we get the chance to be more than desperate strangers playing at marriage. He leaned down, his lips ghosting near hers. So survive, and maybe we'll find out what we could be. He didn't kiss her, didn't push, just stepped back, leaving her aching with possibility. Tomorrow, he said. Dawn, the arena. Whatever happens, know that you're Silvermark, you're mine. And I will burn down this entire palace before I let them take you from me. Then he left her in the grove, surrounded by ancient trees and the ghosts of Silvermark who'd come before. Tomorrow, she'd either join them in death or prove herself worthy of their legacy. Saren touched her shoulder blade, feeling the mark burn with anticipation. Tomorrow, she whispered to the trees, we'll see what I'm really made of. The ceremonial arena was older than the palace itself. Stone bleachers circled a sand-covered combat pit, rising in tiers that could hold thousands. This morning, every seat was filled. Wolves from every pack in the territory had come to witness the spectacle. A wolfless girl facing an alpha in combat. Most expected it to last seconds. Saren stood in the challenger's entrance, wearing leather armor that Alara had provided. It was light, flexible, marked with silver thread in patterns that looked decorative but were actually Silvermark symbols of protection. Remember, Alara said, adjusting the armor straps. Rhiannon will go for the quick kill. She wants to end this before the council sees anything unusual. Don't let her. Draw it out. Let them see what you are. Across the arena, Rhiannon emerged from the champion's entrance. She wore full alpha regalia, black leather and steel, weapons strapped to every limb. Her wolf prowled just beneath her skin, visible in the gold of her eyes and the sharpness of her teeth when she smiled. The council sat in the royal box, alongside Ragnar, who looked like he hadn't slept in days. His hands gripped the armrests of his throne, knuckles white with tension. An elderly wolf, the same one who'd tried to officiate the wedding, stood at the arena's center. The challenge has been issued and accepted. Terms are first blood, submission, or death. Are both parties ready? Ready? Rhiannon called, her voice carrying easily across the arena. All eyes turned to Saren. This was it, the moment that would define everything that came after. Ready, she said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. Then begin. Rhiannon moved like lightning, one moment standing across the arena, the next charging forward with inhuman speed. She didn't shift, not yet, but her alpha strength was evident in every movement. Saren barely dodged the first strike, Rhiannon's clawed hand passing inches from her throat. The crowd roared. Blood on the sand within the first minute. That's what they'd come to see, powers being. But Saren had spent 3 days learning to read fighters. She saw the pattern in Rhiannon's attacks, the way she favored her right side. The split-second delay before each strike. Not much, but enough. The second attack came faster. Saren didn't dodge this time. Instead, she channeled the silver mark, letting silver light coat her arm as she blocked. Metal met power with a sound like a bell tolling. Rhiannon stumbled back, surprised. What she started, Saren didn't let her finish. She'd learned from Ragnar that hesitation in combat was death. She pressed forward, channeling Silvermark power into strikes that Rhiannon barely blocked. Not strong enough to overpower the Alpha, but enough to keep her defensive. The crowd's roar changed, confusion replacing certainty. "She's not wolfless," someone shouted. "What is she?" Rhiannon's eyes narrowed. "Silvermark," she spat. "Abomination. Survivor." Saren corrected. Rhiannon shifted. Her bones cracked, reformed, her body expanding into a massive wolf. Brown fur, golden eyes, teeth like daggers. In wolf form, she was twice Saren's size, fast enough to kill in seconds. She lunged. Saren did what Ragnar taught her. She didn't run, didn't dodge. She dropped to one knee, hands pressed to the sand, and pulled. The Silvermark trees beyond the arena responded. Energy surged through the earth, through her body, exploding outward in a wave of silver light that caught Rhiannon mid-leap and threw her back 20 feet. The wolf hit the arena wall with a sickening crunch. She fell to the sand, stunned but not dead, already struggling to rise. The crowd was silent, shock absolute. Saren stood, silver light dancing across her skin like living lightning. "Surrender," she called. "I don't want to kill you." Rhiannon laughed. Blood dripped from her muzzle. "You think you've won? You just proved what you are. Silvermark. Abomination. Even if you beat me, the council will have you executed by nightfall." "Then I'll die knowing I fought," Saren said, "which is more than you'll be able to say." She channeled everything Ragnar taught her. The kill strike. Silver energy that targeted the bond between wolf and human. It was agony to use, agony to receive, but it was effective. Rhiannon's howl of pain echoed through the arena as silver light wrapped around her like chains, burning, tearing at the connection that made her whole. "Submit," Saren demanded. "Never," Rhiannon snarled through the pain. Saren pushed harder. The wolf form began to flicker. Rhiannon's body caught between shapes, human and animal, neither completely. The same torture Saren had endured, every full moon for years. The agony of being trapped between forms. "How does it feel?" Saren asked quietly, moving closer. "To be broken, to be trapped, to be powerless." Rhiannon's eyes widened with understanding and fear. "Submit," Saren said again, "or I'll leave you like this forever, stuck between forms, neither human nor wolf. Living the hell you wanted to condemn me to." For a long moment, silence. Then, barely audible, "I submit." Saren released the power immediately. Rhiannon collapsed to the sand, fully human, gasping and sobbing, alive, defeated, but alive. The arena erupted, some cheering, many shouting in fear and anger. But Saren didn't care about them. She turned to the royal box, to Ragnar, who was already standing, his expression torn between pride and terror. Because they both knew what came next. Abomination. A council member stood, pointing at Saren. Silvermark, she must be destroyed before she spreads her corruption. She won the challenge fairly, Ragnar said, his voice cutting through the chaos. By your own laws, she has the right to be my queen. The law doesn't protect monsters, another council member argued. Then I'm a monster too, Ragnar said. He descended from the royal box, walking into the arena. With each step, silver light began to glow beneath his skin. The same light that covered Saren. I'm Silvermark. I've always been Silvermark. And if you want to execute her, you'll have to execute me first. Your Majesty, Dorian started. I'm done hiding. Ragnar reached Saren, taking her hand. Their combined light blazed brighter, silver turning to white, so bright that many wolves had to look away. My father was Silvermark. His father before him. This bloodline built this kingdom, and now you fear it because you can't control it. The council will never accept. The council has no choice. Alara's voice rang out. She stood in the arena entrance, and behind her, dozens of figures emerged. Men and women of all ages, all wearing the faint silver glow of awakened Silvermark. We've hidden for 3 centuries, watched our people be murdered. Lived in fear. But no more. Ragnar is right. Either you accept us, or you lose your king. And let me be clear, we have enough power among us to flatten this palace if you choose wrong. The council members looked at each other. At the Silvermark standing united. At Ragnar and Saren, blazing with power in the arena's center. Finally, the eldest council member spoke. If we accept this bloodline, what guarantee do we have that you won't use your power to enslave us? The same guarantee we've had for 300 years, Alara said. Our word. We don't want to rule through fear, Pack. We just want to exist without persecution. To live, to love, to be Pack like everyone else. And if we refuse, then civil war, Ragnar said simply. And I promise you, we will win. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, the eldest council member bowed his head. The Silvermark are recognized as part of Pack law. No longer hunted, no longer hidden, and Saren Ashford is confirmed as queen, by right of challenge and blood. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered, others protested, but it didn't matter. The decision was made. Ragnar pulled Saren close. You did it, he murmured into her hair. You saved us all. We did it, she corrected. Together. 3 months later, the palace had transformed. What was once a place of secrets and shadows had become something brighter, open. Silvermark no longer hid their nature. They worked alongside traditional wolves, their combined strengths making the territory safer and more prosperous than it had been in generations. Cassian was fully healed, studying under the palace healers, and showing an aptitude for Silvermark medical techniques that no one expected. He was happy, thriving. Everything Saren had fought for. The real wedding took place under the full moon in the old grove. No politics, no contracts. Just Saren and Ragnar, and the bonds that had grown between them over months of learning each other. From desperate strangers, to something that felt remarkably like love. Still sure about forever? Ragnar asked as they stood before Alara, who'd volunteered to officiate. Forever was your idea, Saren reminded him. I just wanted 1 year. And yet here you are. Here I am. They spoke their vows with only witnesses who mattered. Alara, Dorian, Cassian, the Silvermark who'd emerged from hiding, and the ancient trees that had guarded their people for centuries. I, Ragnar Ironvale, take you, Saren Ashford, as my mate, my queen, my heart, for as long as we both live and beyond, forever. I, Saren Ashford, take you, Ragnar Ironvale, as my mate, my king, my chosen family, for as long as we both live, forever. The bonds between them blazed silver white, visible to everyone present, not forced, not desperate, chosen. Then, by the power vested in me by absolutely no one official, Alara said with a smile, I pronounce you actually married. Kiss your bride before I change my mind. Ragnar didn't need to be told twice. Later, as they stood on the balcony of their shared quarters, watching the moon rise over the territory, Saren thought about how far she'd come. From a wolfless girl facing eviction to a queen who'd changed the laws of an entire kingdom. Regrets? Ragnar asked, his arms around her waist. Thousands, she said honestly. But being here with you isn't one of them. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. Forever. Forever, she agreed. And this time, the word didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a promise. One she was finally ready to keep. The contract marriage that was never supposed to be real had become the realest thing in her life. And the Alpha King who'd claimed forever had been right all along. Some things aren't meant to be temporary. Some bonds, once formed, are meant to last a lifetime. And some loves are worth fighting for, even when the whole world says you're not strong enough to win. Saren had learned that lesson the hard way. But as she stood in Ragnar's arms, surrounded by the life they'd built together, she couldn't bring herself to wish it had been any easier. Because easy wouldn't have forged them into what they'd become. Leaders, survivors, mates, and most importantly, themselves. Friendship. Forever had never sounded so good.